obviously when the cars end up having a little bit of, let's just say the rubber starts to degrade a little bit and moves things forward at a pace, so the drivers will be able to really eke out the maximum around this circuit. But obviously some famous corners here, Steve. Tamburello, Dosa, Acqua Minerale, just to name but a few, but quite a few overtaking opportunities here, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting because there's a lot of corners that it really, they flow. Tamburello, you've got to really get that right, not too fast in and carry a bit of speed through, but you've got to be ready to get on the power on the exit of Tamburello, before you approach the next chicane. And there's, as with any racetrack, I suppose, all the corners are linked. It's a bit of a cliche, but, it's so important to keep everything so smooth, and there's a few curbs you want to avoid. It's not always advisable to run over the curbs, but there's some curbs around here that you can attack and you can take liberties with them a little bit. And it's quite heavy on the old trail braking, I believe, is Imola as well. From my experience, I always carry a little bit of brake through the corners, keep everything tucked in, keep everything tidy. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers handle that, as we're just watching Andreas at the moment running a little bit wide into the sand, getting back on. That won't have done him any favours on the outlap, because obviously the outlap is all about building heat into the tyres. We've just seen him weaving around there trying to put some heat back in, and it will take him a couple of laps to get up to speed. And as I said, the track is just developed onto fast now, so there's a little bit more grip, but it's still a developing track, so every single lap is going to get a little bit better, I think.
So Andreas Knöpfer in the 82 Audi R8 LMS. So the times will start coming in as we've, as I said, this is a brief qualifying session here at Imola, just 15 minutes, and the track is showing a good amount of temperature. There's Peter Foldesi in the 711, appropriately numbered and also appropriately team named BMW M6 GT3, one of 3 cars of that variety from Munich on the 34 strong grid. And one of the interesting things here, Steve, is that the times will start coming in rather quickly and the track will evolve. As soon as we hit optimum, that's when the drivers will really decide to maybe put a bit of a little bit less fuel in and have the tyre pressures at the absolute optimum. But yeah, as you said, you can take curves like, say, the ones through the 3 apexes at Tamburello. It used to be a flat-out left-hand kink. Now it's like a triple chicane, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to set that chicane up, way back. Once you on your fast approach to it, you've got to get the braking just right. You've got to get that turning absolutely spot on, because you're wanting to carry as much speed through there as you can, and like I say, not take too many liberties with the curves, because if you do take too many liberties, that can just upset the car a little bit, and for the 10th of a second you may feel you've gained by taking the curb, you can soon lose from loss of traction, having to put extra steering input in. It's all very, very delicately poised. And let's not forget, with the tyre model in this sim, if you tap the curbs too hard, you can start to suffer with tyre pressure loss, and that can affect the whole, especially in the race, that can affect the whole pace of the car, and you can soon start to lose time on the other drivers.
Yeah, we definitely saw one of the Mercedes actually doing a bit of rally crossing through Variante Alta, which is a second gear 100km/h chicane, and you start to build the speed and momentum coming out of there, going into Rivazza, as Foldesi showing in P8 at the moment, as we've got yellow flags out with just 10.25 minutes at the moment. But let's see what's happening in terms of the times at the moment. We are waiting for our live timing to come up, so you can just see that Foldesi running on a 1 minute 44.6 as one of the Porsches has parked it on the outside of the first apex of Tamburello. But now you've got the number 74 of Barker ran in the lead by 1.3 seconds. But Steve, just looking at that at the moment, 1.3 seconds isn't really respective, and that was Jordi Barker from in the Ram Racing, that very, very Banksy styled livery on there.
Yes, stand out from the crowd, that one.
Yeah, I think you could probably spot that from Google Maps quite easily.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always love the liveries like this. They always stand out well, and we see more and more of them turning up on the grids. And it's great to see that, the drivers are not just good drivers, but they've got a very creative mind as well. I won't say an eye for design, because some people may argue that that's not a design, but it looks good to me, and I like it. So yeah, that's fair play to the guy.
Someone probably someone might say, well, hang on, they've just blown up a couple of aerosol cans near the paintwork and hoped it stuck, which is probably right. Could be true. It could be a Jackson Pollock for all we know. But it is. We do see quite a lot of different liveries here, and with the livery editor here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, that just really gives us an indication. Yellow flags out briefly again. We do have a sole GT4 out of the 34 entries that we've had for the this exhibition race ahead of the start of the new GT3 and GT4 seasons, which kicks off with next week, with myself and Steve actually being on commentary duty for GT3 for the entire season, both seasons for 2021, but obviously there'll be developments reference the commentary team for GT4, which will start the week after. So good evening to those. We do also have a stream chat as well, so we're getting it from both YouTube and also from Twitch as well. So good evening everyone, hope you're all keeping well and staying safe, as there's Common Corkery in the number 9 Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, and there is only one non-Evo in this at the moment. Peter Foldesi running 5th place at the minute in the BMW. That's very much like a mint chip ice cream livery, but without the chocolate, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's currently 1.2 seconds up on his lap time, so he's going to improve maybe on his 5th position, or certainly get closer to those front boys at the minute if he can maintain that improvement as he's coming sort of towards the latter half of the latter part of the lap. But those times are certainly getting closer at the top, I think now, Alex.
Yeah, so we've got 7 minutes in this qualifying session still to go. Track temperature still at 30 degrees Celsius. The wind has dropped from what was rather a hefty amount of wind, around 10 kilometers per hour. Now it's literally at a standstill. So the weather conditions for the next 10 minutes showing around about the same. A lot of sunshine, but a little bit of cloud overhead. But you can just see that some of the drivers having a few moments coming through. But Foldesi goes P1. And
yeah,
that
absolutely.
was a brilliant lap time there.
Yeah, he did manage to carry that speed through, and that advantage he'd gained, and it's really put him at the top of the table at the minute by a reasonable margin, around about 4/10. I think he's quicker at the moment, but that's certainly set a benchmark for the other guys to follow. But I don't think that's all we're going to see. As I said, I think the guys are going to keep improving as the laps sort of tally up and they keep circulating. The track is getting better and better. It's still displaying as fast. The track temperature's 30 degrees, plenty of grip out there, a little bit overcast, but conditions are pretty good. And as you said, there is absolutely no wind at the moment either. So yeah, we should see these times improve even further still. And as we actually have, for Mr. Coleman has gone even quicker. He's on a 42.7. So that's a fantastic lap as we see him just exiting the pits to go out and try and improve more. So the fact that these guys are literally doing their laps, jumping in the pits, tells me obviously they're going in. They're just running very light fuel loads, I would suspect, and basically just going out there doing 2 or 3 laps and seeing what they can do.
Yeah, it's always a case that you never know what the weather's going to bring. You don't know how the track is going to evolve over a particular amount of time. It's also the case when it comes to, say, for instance, the track here at Imola. We're in the Emilia-Romagna region. This is the site of where the 2020 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, in honour of the region, was hosting Formula One last season, and provided, I think, one of the most action-packed Formula One races for quite a time, let alone Istanbul Park. But we've got 4.5 minutes still to go, and there's a lot of drivers trying to find their way around the track, but coming across backmarker traffic in some respects, Steve, and that's not what you want on a qualifying run, is it?
No, absolutely not. And I noticed that myself there as we're watching the stream. We saw Patrick, I think, got held up, and we just seen a Porsche turned around the wrong way there. So there's a few guys still suffering with maybe not quite enough grip at the moment. We're just watching Jordi Bakker there. He's just running a little bit wide. That won't do him any good at all. But it's the back marker traffic when you come out. It's difficult. You need to find your own space. You need to give yourself a good gap. But you deal with it as you come, and hopefully they'll let you by and you can get your lap times in, as it looks like Jordi's going to abandon that lap because literally he's parked on the grass at the moment. It's difficult. The track is rubbering in. They are getting faster. The pole time at the minute by Coleman is still 1:42.765, so not a bad time. I expect to see we've got 3 guys in the 42s now, and a couple of guys very, very close to it. So the field is still relatively close, but pole is held by around about 2/10 at the minute, 2/10 clear. So it's looking pretty good for Coleman Corkery at the moment.
Yeah, that still could change, as Joris Evelins was just briefly on our screen there. There's Coleman Corkery running in the 1:42.765, and then the number 33 Audi Ben Keogh is on a 1:42.984 at the minute. So as you said, Steve, not that much between them in qualifying thus far, but it still can change.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're talking about Coleman Corkery at the moment, he's 4/10 up on his lap time. So if he can carry it through, he's going to really extend that gap out. He's just lost a tenth. He's 3/10 up still, though. 2/10 now. He's just time's ebbing away from him. He might just have cost himself a faster lap. He's just got a poor exit out of that one through the chicane into the latter part. He's gained again, so he is really 3/10 up. But it looks like he's abandoning that lap now, and he's going to go again. It looks like he's thinking he's basically must have got a poor exit, losing time, and he's going to save his tyres. He's just slowing down, trying to find that space that we were talking about, and he's going to wind it up and go for another hot lap by the looks of it.
Yeah, just over 2 minutes to go. I did notice, according to, for those wondering about live time, you can go to pitwall.live and find the Sim Racing Hub International feed that way. And I did see that there were a couple of incidents in qualifying, one of which was for the 331 of Brendel in the Mercedes, and the number 30, that was Andrea Pasinato, having a bit of a moment earlier on. So that's why we're on board with the provisional pole sitter at the moment, Corkery, in the number 9, and that is coming through into Villeneuve before heading in towards Tosa.
Yeah, and he's 6/10 up on this lap, so I thought it'd be an opportune moment just to really ride on board with him and the man of the moment, see what he can do, see if he can improve. He's just caught up to a back marker again, so that's going to curtail his lap a little bit, I think. Although at the moment he's still up, it just depends how much he gets held up through this next section. And yeah, I think that's pretty much lap over for him now as the time's just dropping away. It's getting out of the way at the moment. It's all too little too late there, unfortunately.
It's always the way, especially when you're trying to get through to somewhere like, going into Pirotella and then into Acqua Minerale. It's just really, really interesting how so many people will try and go for moves there to try and get their laps done. But with 39 seconds on the clock, I think it's pretty much a given on the fact that Corkery is going to be our pole sitter post-qualifying here for this 45-minute sprint race invitational. Big thank you to those getting involved. Chris Hill, who's told me what his Twitch handle is. Thank you very much. We've got 12 drivers from the SRHI community and a lot of other drivers from other communities as well. And when I tell you that over 40 plus drivers have signed up for the next season of GT3 here at SRHI, myself and Steve are really, really looking forward to what's going to be happening there. As now we have that is pretty much the check it out for qualifying. Corkery takes pole position by just over a tenth and a half ahead of Faldesi. Ben Keogh, and then you've got Migliorini, Nance, Dieters, Bakker, Bathory, Brendel, Van Drooyen, that's Aaron Van Drooyen, Nordenboom, Knupfer, Tractor, Evelins, Gillespie rounding out the top 15, covered by 2.1 1.45 seconds, and the top 24, Steve, covered by just under 4.2.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, not too bad at all. Not too shabby times there. I mean, the track has just ticked over into optimum, so another 5 minutes of qualifying maybe on the end of that would have seen the times drop even further. But you deal with what you've got. You race with what you've got, and you qualify certainly in the conditions you've got. And to be fair, that's not a bad qualifying for these guys, which is for what is pretty much a test race for these guys. It's a bit of fun this evening. There's no championship at stake, and it's just all out for this sprint race and see what we can do.
Yeah, so we're about a minute or so away from the 45 minutes, and Steve and I have had the pleasure of actually commentating on this particular circuit as well. And Steve, it's no picnic round here at Imola. It's
not, and I raced around here a couple of weeks ago in the GT4s, and I had a fantastic race myself. But it's quite easy to get caught up in incidents as cars run wide and just rejoining, on some of these curbs where we're taking advantage of the limits, as it were. But it's a grid full of drivers that we're not 100% familiar with, so I'm waiting to see, and I'm excited to see how this all shakes out. There are a few names on there that I recognise, and obviously the poll has the qualifying has sorted out the order of the drivers, as it were, so we should have some sort of idea of what to expect of who to be up there at the front. But as we've seen in the past, not everybody's well adapted to qualifying, and they may well find some of those mid-pack runners and even some of the guys closer to the back may find themselves running closer to the front with a bit of consistency and a bit of good fortune.
Yeah, very much the case. Thank you from Basman Melis saying that SRHI is actually running 2 GT3 servers. We'll be concentrating on one of them. 80 sign-ups for GT3 Championship in total. That's impressive. That's quite big, and having to run 2 servers, I'm not really at all surprised in that sort of respect. Are you, Steve?
No, absolutely not. And credit to what is a great community. It's really good to see them doing so well and having so much interest in the championships. Speaking as an admin of my own community, there's no greater reward for yourself than having so many people sign up for events you organise. That's why you do it, and it's great to see. And the guys here do work very, very hard, and it's not easy setting these events up and running them, and throw another server into the mix, and it's a little bit more work. So credit to all the guys involved at SRHI, doing a sterling job and putting on some great events.
Yeah, so GT3 and GT4 here for 2021 will be streamed here on SRHI TV and also on the Twitch channel. So a big thank you for you for joining us this evening, as we are literally seconds away to get things going. So it will be. I was just
going to say, Alex, I've just spotted there, obviously it's cloudy, the temperature's still around about the same 30-degree track temperature, but it's back to green again, so it's literally, it's almost like it's had a splash of rain overnight between qualifying and race, and they need to get it all rubbered in again. So these first, I would say the first 3 or 4 laps are going to be a little bit like driving almost on the proverbial ice. They're going to come round here now. They've had the tyre blankets on, they'll have some temperature in the tyres, but they certainly won't be up to race temp, and the track certainly isn't up to optimum grip. It's a long way from that. It's probably got about as much grip as the grass at the moment.
Very much the case. So it is Corkery and Foldesi. That is the front row. Nance and Keogh behind. And this is where it's going to get rather interesting. It's a 45-minute sprint race. There's more chatter about Euro Truck Simulator 2 coming up. Thank you, Anthony Charles.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, especially when Jimmy Broadbent's involved, because he normally streams a lot of that. But ladies and gentlemen, are we ready? Are we steady? Here at SRHI for the invitational race at Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari at Imola. We are ready to go green. It is green. Great start initially from Corkery. And I think that Nance has got up the inside of Foldesi going into Tamburello for the first time. Foldesi trying to plant it around the outside as one of the Audis does a Matthias Ekstrom and goes rally crossing off of Tamburello. Some drivers out braking themselves as Migliorini getting a bit stuck in there. But Corkery already up into, well, he's got away like a scalded cat, a bit like Sebastian Vettel back in his Red Bull days, with the German driver now having taken part in his first seat fit at Aston Martin Cognizant F1 team this past week. But now it looks like Voldesi has kept Keogh at bay as they are on the run down to Piratella. So a good start already, Steve, and it looks like a lot of drivers actually kept their noses rather clean, even if they had to make avoiding action.
Yeah, absolutely. Looked like a fantastic start, a really well disciplined start from all the guys, giving everybody pretty much racing room and great respect shown. We saw a couple of cars running through the gravel at Tamburello just to maybe avoid incident or whatever. But great credit to everybody, and it just looking like those front two guys, Corkery and Nance, are trying to get away. They're trying to get a break on, but the other guys are going to start settling down into a rhythm. And as I said, the track's green, things are going to get better. They're still finding their feet. They're still finding the limits of grip and adhesion at the moment. But we've just seen him run a little bit wide there onto the gravel. That won't do him any good. It'll cost him a tenth or two. But everyone running as you would expect, pretty much nose to tail as they come round to complete lap one. And it's almost pretty much at the front anyway. It's almost as they were on the grid.
Yeah, a couple of cars at the back end of the grid, Jackson Sibbett and also Alexander Lang in the numbers 12 and 34. Lang is quite a way off the pace, as the gap between Corkery and Nance now is 0.825 of a second. Voldesi a further 7 tenths back. Then you got Keogh a further 1.1 seconds adrift in fourth position. Then it's Bathory, Notenboom, Van Drooyen, Dieters, Brendel and Evelines that ran out the top 10 positions. As behind Van Drooyen, it looks like Brendel was closing up on Dieters, and you can just see there the 331 Mercedes having a bit of a contretemps there with Dieters, but Dieters keeping ahead for the moment in the Audi as they now go into the left-hander at Pilotella, and Dieters runs wide quite substantially there. And you can then sort of see how close it is. Oh, Dieters gets a bit wide going through the second part of it, Acqua Minerale, and then Brendel trying to go side by side. Now this is going to get rather hairy going through into Variante Alta, but Dieters manages to keep it planted, but he nearly loses out an absolute truckload of momentum coming through the second half of Variante Alta there, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely, but he's still in the hunt for that position, and he's all over the back of that Audi and the Mercedes. So he's looking like it's a matter of when, not so much if. He's certainly at this moment in time, that Mercedes has got the legs by the looks of it on the Audi, and he's in the hunt. He just needs to keep everything really tidy and try and get the move done as cleanly as possible.
Yeah, because there is an Audi just behind them, Joris Evelines, and then not too far behind Evelines is Ike Chews in the 911 Porsche. Michael Hartmann on Michael Hartmann says Audi #Audi train. Well, thank goodness no one said truly train there, as Voldesi closing again on Voldesi's absolutely flying in that Beamer. He's just put in a 1:44.346. He went over 2.5 tenths of a second quicker than James Nance, and then did it again in sector 2. Then Nance came flying back with a 48.393 in sector 3, but Voldesi looking really racy in that peppermint green BMW M6.
Yeah, absolutely. He's pushing it, and the BMW is a very quick car. It's a bit of a handful, I believe, through the corners and whatnot. It's not the most agile of cars. Not speaking from too much experience. I've not driven it an awful lot, but I know for a fact that it's very quick in a straight line, and it's got some very serious grunt. And the Porsche is the opposite almost. That it's very quick out of the corners, but maybe not quite as long-legged as the BMW will be down the straight. So it's going to be interesting to see how he manages to defend against that BMW when they come round on the start-finish straight this time.
Yep, going through Rivazza. So let's have a look on the left-hand side of our screen. What classes, according to their ACC rating, they are. But this will also give us the gap times if we can get them up there. So 39 minutes and 45 seconds. Voldesi closing in at this particular moment in time. He got a bit close that time, and 1:44.181 from him, but Corkery put in a 1:43.896, and he went faster than anybody in sectors 1 and 3. And looks like there's been a couple of cars dropping down the order. I've seen that Andreas Knöpfer and Renzo Schollmann have both dropped down to 26th and 27th. I think those two drivers are, I'm just checking now, looks like Knöpfer coming out of the pits, and so is Schollmann. So there's been a few incidents, I think, a little bit further back down the field, and there you can see just how big the gaps are, ever so briefly. So Coleman Corkery here, Steve, doing an absolutely cracking job with just under 10 minutes of this race completed. We've got about 3.5 minutes for that point to happen, but Corkery's kept it nice and consistent thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. He's doing what he needs to do. He's finding the grip levels. He's putting the laps in. He's driving his lines, and he's doing his time. And it's all going on behind him, really. I mean, we've got Voldesi and Nance running nose to tail, as they have been doing since pretty much the start of the race, as the Porsche just really runs a little bit wide there, and that might just close the gap down a little bit for the BMW to get a bit of a run. Now let's just watch this, because it could be an opportunity, although it doesn't look that close at the minute. By the time they come around this next corner before the braking zone, I think he's going to be a heck of a lot closer.
Looks to be the case, as now they head over to Tamburello. Voldesi flings it up the inside of Nance. They're going through into Tamburello. The 711 BMW gets through and now takes second position.
And that all came just from that little bit of a mistake there from the Porsche, just to run into the gravel and lose that little bit of momentum, and that's pretty much what set that move up there. So it was all, basically that was all down to the Porsche's ever so slight mistake, I would say.
Yeah, and also just look behind them. They've got Ben Keogh in this particular occasion, but Keogh has dropped a little bit further back. Then you got the number 76 of Andras Batori in the 76 AMG GT3 Evo. Just behind that, you got I think you got that's Ries Nordenboom. So a lot of drivers really starting to keep going. And that's in the 979 Porsche. But to be honest with you, Steve, I would have thought that from around 7th onwards, the gaps have really started to go, because between Adam van Droonen and then Joris Evelins, there is a gap of around 10 seconds, and it is widening by the second.
Yeah, absolutely. The gaps are sort of, they're finding their positions on track. The gaps are opening up. Interestingly, it's the front two guys that are setting the pace at the moment. Very much so, in the respect that the first and second, I think, are the only ones that have been into the 43s during the race pace. So they're certainly stretching the legs now, and Corkery's really, he's making this race his own at the moment, as we're just getting nicely bedded into it. 36 minutes still remaining. A lot can change. The track is still showing green, so it's still tiptoe around. Things will still be a bit loose, and indeed we have seen a couple of the cars snaking around, mainly on the power under protest, as the drivers are just hitting that loud pedal as they exit from the apexes, and things are just lighting the back tyres up sometimes. But one man that is keeping it all smooth is Coleman Corkery in the lead, and in a healthy lead at this moment in time, just shy of 3 seconds, I would say, at the moment.
Yeah, he's also put in a personal best, as there's been an incident involving the numbers 25 and 55. That is Mark Dieters and Mark van der Eyck that has just had an incident there. Also, the number 88 has had a bit of a moment too, and that is Hob van Langen. So a lot of drivers coming a bit unstuck here at Imola, as we're now into there is the number 88 Mercedes, currently 19th position at the moment, and has Mark van der Eyck just in front. So those two have had a bit of a coming together, and you can now see in some respects the positions of the respective cars. So Voldesi is 2.6 seconds behind Then it's a further 5.5 tenths of a second back to Nance. Then Keogh a further 7 tenths behind. Then Bathory a further 2 seconds adrift. And then you see the biggest gap here, Steve, between Adam van Drooyen and and then you got Migliorini a further, a hell of a way back, around about 13 to 15 seconds.
Yeah, and Andrew Van Drooyen is really just driving in his own space at the moment, and just again, like you say, 7th place. He'll be keeping things tidy. He won't want to, it's one of those scenarios when you're racing. It's nice to have that quiet space because you're not under too much pressure. You can drive your own race, but then you almost feel like you're not having much of a race. You're just hot lapping, and you want to be in there in amongst the action. So I'm sure he'd love to be up in that top 6 and a little bit closer to them, and getting there and. Just putting some pressure on to try and apply for some higher places, as we just seen Newton Boom now really putting the pressure on Bathory as he just runs really wide there, and it's going to cost himself a little bit of time in the Porsche. But these Porsches are pretty agile through the twisty stuff, and I fully expect to see the Porsche close up as we come through the tighter stuff. As we see there, he's right on the back of Bathory in the Mercedes, and he's potentially looking to try and maybe just spook him into the braking zone for the chicane. And I think it's too far back. He is indeed. He's just putting pressure on now, but this is where the Mercedes will start to stretch the legs a bit, open that gap back up again a little bit, and unless he makes a mistake, I think he's pretty much safe for this lap, and he'll keep that 5th position for now.
Yeah, well, the last couple of laps, Steve, I've just noticed that Foldesi in the BMW, Peter Foldesi, has gone sub 1 minute 43.5, and he's being closed in on by Nance. Now, the thing is that Foldesi just had a massive moment, lost 1.2 seconds. He went purple in Sector 1, had an absolute howler in Sector 3. That's where he lost a lot of his time. So there must have been a moment for Foldesi, because he was within 1.9 seconds of Coleman Corkery for the lead of the race with about 10 minutes, just over 12 minutes completed.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, he's really fallen back into the lap of Nance now, and who's putting the pressure on. He's almost looks like he's going to take the inside there and really put him under pressure, and just see if he can get the position back. That is not what Valtteri will want, because he had to work so hard, if you remember, to get that position in the first place. And now he's got it. He won't want to lose it, and he's all good for now. But again, just going back to what I said a few moments ago, the Porsche is better through this tight, twisty stuff. It will close up. He will be able to apply the pressure for a bit longer on that BMW. But if he can keep it all tidy, Foldesi can keep it tidy as they go into the chicane, then he's going to keep that position. This is sort of more or less not the last gasp for the Porsche to get the position on this lap, but as you can see on the exit now, the BMW's aware the gap's opening up again, and I think he's safe for another lap. And if he can maintain that gap now, he'll probably Foldesi will get his head down. We know he's got better lap times than the Porsche behind him. He just needs to keep his head down and keep the laps coming in. With 31 minutes to go, he's got time to close that lead gap down again, which is now 3.3 seconds.
Yeah, and again, I've just seen that Coleman Corkery has gone back into the 143s, as has Peter Foldesi. Foldesi puts in a 143.8. I've just seen that Andras Bathory has just gone purple in Sector 1 at 22.116. But I have noticed that 2 drivers are in the pits for an extensive amount of time. The most significant is the 919 Porsche of Daniel Bolkamp, that has been in there, well, I think may have retired from the race on lap 3. Mark Dieters in the 25 Audi is also in the pits. And we are currently on lap number 9 as we go to Oak Chews in the number 911. Trying to close in on Gillespie in the number 129 Audi.
Yeah, just got
Gillespie.
Yeah, he just got a little bit off his line there through the chicane, through the first chicane, lost a little bit of exit speed, and that's cost him the gap. He was closing right onto the back of Gillespie, but it's just cost him a bit of space, a bit of time. But he's closing up again in the braking zones. He's going to be tight on the back of that Audi again as they come through the twisty stuff. But it's going to be so hard to make a move around here. He's just you've got to be so patient. You've got to apply that pressure. You've got to just try and work the move. And as we've seen with some of the overtakes so far, the moves come from so far back, but quite often come from the driver in front's mistake. It's about keeping them under pressure, applying that pressure, and it's not the easiest thing to do because you've got to drive so close to the guy in front, and then there's so much anticipation. You've really got to watch their line, because if they make a mistake rather than overtake, as we see him now where he's made a mistake on the exit, the Porsche chooses up on the inside, and he has got the inside line for the next corner, which could be crucial now, as he's in front, he's got the position, he's going to have a tighter line in, he's gained that position, and that's choose up to 10th place. Great move.
I love it that he's got the sort of like the Golf Porsche livery on that car with the proper number as well, the 911 number. That's definitely a petrolhead's dream right there, if you're any kind of sports car fan, with 28 minutes and 46 seconds. And we've got, look, three wild Mercedes in a row, battling between each other. Ben's trying to go up the inside of Eikelenboom, and then Brendel just behind. And that's the move for position through Tamburello. Oh, Brendel absolutely nails that. How was that possible? Literally went... I think it was Eikelenboom that decided, oh, well, that's a bit close for comfort. And then Brendel just went, right, I'm going to send it. Yeah,
absolutely. How to lose 2 places in one corner. That was unfortunate, but the guys ahead of him now, they worked that move, and it's looking like Benz has worked another move, and he's moving up the order. Sorry, that's not Benz, that's Brendel.
Yeah, so Brendel doing a really good job there at the moment. If you are watching on the SRHI YouTube channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And obviously with 80 sign-ups on 2 different servers, there's going to be some good drivers, there's going to be some aliens, as we say. It's a regular terminology used here in esports, and there are quite a few of them out there, especially on these sims. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the great thing about community racing, especially communities like SRHI, where everybody's welcome to come along and race. Got a couple of servers which are sorted out via sort of some qualification lap times, so you to be sure that you put in the right server with the right mix of drivers, so that you're going to have fun, you're going to have a good race, and yeah, definitely there'll be a real mix of some of the really fast guys that we normally see in these leagues, and there'll be some guys out there for fun that are doing pretty fast times. They're just not maybe quite got the alien status yet, which I definitely haven't got the alien status.
Well, considering you have actually dusted off the old cobwebs off the sim rig and you got back to racing yourself, Steve, so which has been quite nice to see, as Ries Nordenboom closing on Bathory there. That is the battle for P5, as that's Porsche versus Mercedes going through into Acqua Minerale, and Nordenboom takes a little bit of a wider line cutting through into the second right-hander through there, and you can see that Ben Keogh is not too far up ahead, probably about 4.5 seconds or so, as they go through Variante Alta. Oh, that was a bit of a truck cut from both of them there. No movement wide coming out of Variante Alta, and then Bathory just literally flat straight lined it, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very aggressive. I think it was both trying to brake as late as possible, and while in the hunt for that fastest optimum line, they both fluffed it and just ran a little bit deep and ended up with big track cuts. But no harm, no foul. It's still positions as were, and the gaps pretty much as were, and the Porsche of Nordenboom is really applying the pressure to that Mercedes. But somebody else who's applying pressure at the moment is looking like Nance on Foldelsi. That BMW's not got away from him since he made that mistake, and the Porsche is really hanging onto the back now and putting up for fight for what is second place, let's not forget.
Well, Nance has just put in a 1:43.347. He's gone 60 thousandths quicker than Foldesi, so Foldesi really feeling the pressure here. So the number 26 Porsche looking to close up, and that's going through from I think that is from Dosa to Piratella, so they're going to go into the left-hand sweeper down the dip towards Acqua Minerale. They're going to take it at around about 4th gear at about 180 to 185 kilometers an hour, depending how brave your right foot is staying on the throttle before hitting on the brake. 2nd gear, 110 kph through the second part, and it looked like Nantes got a tighter exit in comparison with Foldesi as they go through into Variante Alta.
The hardest section to get right. Just to be so consistent through there is very, very difficult. So if you're applying pressure on somebody in front of you, that is the place where you need to apply the most pressure, because I think most drivers potentially probably find that statement the same. You've got a downhill braking zone as you enter it. You've got to get the turning spot on into the first part to allow you to get the turning for the exit up the hill absolutely perfect, and it is so difficult to do correctly lap after lap. You can't, you can get it right, but to do it lap after lap, you have got to be really on the ball. And when you've got a Porsche like this one chewing, snapping at your heels, hanging onto your tailpipes, then it just puts that bit of pressure and makes it that little bit harder to do.
Yeah, very much the case. It will be just one of those opportunities where James Nantes will have his chance. And if Peter Foldesi makes that mistake in a moment's notice, we're on lap number 13. You can see that Callum Corkery just absolutely chilled out, cool as a cucumber up the front. But Nantes really, really now trying to force the issue on Foldesi. But Foldesi, the biggest thing here, Steve, he's not cracking under pressure. He's doing a fantastic job making that BMW M6 as wide as humanly possible.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's driving the lines he needs to drive. The unfortunate thing is for these two guys, while Nantes is putting on the pressure he is, they're not closing that gap down really up to Corkery up front. It's come down a tenth over the last lap, but it's still at 3.7 seconds. So basically, I won't say they need to work together. In an ideal world, that's what they do. Maybe Nantes just he's got to drive through. Yes.
We are halfway through. Keep it up.
apologies for the technical interruption there. We lost the live feed into the commentary box. We seem to have got everything back online for us, so we can see the action, we can see what's going on, and we can get back to what is turning out to be a fantastic race this evening. As we've seen Newton Boom trying to put the pressure on Bathory, but Bathory's just managing to maintain that gap. If anything, he's extended it out now. He's just a shade under a second ahead. But Faldesi has managed to make that move up into 9th place, as you saw slightly earlier, and he's on the back of 8th place Choose now, but he's going to really have to apply the pressure on the Porsche now. If he can get close enough through this section, maybe he can get a pass on the Porsche as they go down the start-finish straight in the slipstream. That's what it's all about for him at this moment in time. He's going to really have to hang on to the back of it and see what he can do, see if he can stay close enough through these final 2 corners before they come onto the start-finish straight. In fact, he's not waited. He's just shot down in braking zone, run very, very deep. That was a bit of a lick the stamp and send it sort of a move, wasn't it? He'd have been very, very lucky to keep that tight and turned in. But 10 out of 10 for effort and 10 out of 10 for ambition, I think there, but just maybe 1 out of 10 for execution.
I think he did a bit of an Alex Wirtz there and ran out of talent going through into the Vatsa there. But yeah, Faldesi, you have to give him credit where credit is due, because obviously before we had the technical difficulties, Faldesi had the drive-through penalty and instantly served it. So now having this opportunity, but with 16 minutes and 9 seconds still to go, I mean, Corkery, Steve, has just been absolutely cool as a cucumber, as Faldesi going through Tamburello, still trying to pressurise Ike Choose in the 911, and he's gone off into the gravel again, kicking up more dust. You know what this is going to give the opportunity to? Evelines and Brendel, who are 10th and 11th, not too far behind him.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's not forget Faldesi has actually passed Evelyn, so he's overtaken him in the last couple of laps and pulled that gap out to 2.5 seconds. So Faldesi is the man with the pace. He's just stuck behind this Porsche at the moment, and as we saw on the previous lap, maybe he's getting a little bit impatient as he's side to side there. He's really applying the pressure to that Porsche. He's really wanting to get this move done as quick as possible, because let's not forget, once he gets past Choose in 8th place, he's got a 10, nearly 11-second gap up to 7th place, so that's going to be a tall order. I won't say impossible, because we've seen it done before, but sort of like around about a 10-second gap in 15 minutes to close down, it's going to be a big ask.
Yeah, very much the case. I think if anyone might remember a particular Indiana Jones film where there was a song called Anything Goes. Well, in sports car racing, anything goes as long as it's legal. Faldesi! He bangs the left rear corner of Choose, and Choose just goes like, come on, mate, that was not going to happen at all. Not going to happen at all. And Van Drooyen has just parked it in the pit lane, but that has given Evelines and Brendel the opportunity of a lifetime. But I think Faldesi, that was a bit too robust, I think is the term I'll use, going into the final part of Rivazza there.
He got such a good exit from that last corner, and it was important that he did, because he was expecting he wanted a good exit to get the run down the straight. That's my take on the situation, but the Porsche maybe just got a bad exit, and that's where the touch came from, and it just turned the Porsche sideways enough and basically levered his way through. And yeah, to be fair, he maybe back, but they're racing now. They'll race to the flag. It's a fun race, and a debrief, shall we say, maybe had at the end of the race.
Yes, definitely an extensive debrief for saying, well, the first thing that we'll be asking was, what the heck was that?
This is the other battle on track. He's Newton Boom a 10th off Bathory, and this has been going on for quite some time now. But the Porsche just hasn't quite got the legs or the oomph, the lap times to get past that Mercedes in front. But he's keeping him very, very honest, and he's been applying the pressure, like I say, for quite some laps now, and they've been in this position. 13 minutes to go, still plenty of time left on the clock. But it is ticking down, and really, if he's going to get the job done, he needs to sort of make a move very, very soon.
Yeah, very, very much the case. I just think that there's going to be some opportunities here, because they've got a back marker just up ahead who nearly got in the way. That was the 22nd place car of Renzo Schollmann in the number 90 Mercedes, who quickly got out of the way there. Some good spatial awareness as now they head down into the left-hand sweeper at Pilatella before the run down to Acqua Minerale. Notenboom still not giving up as he runs. He literally, that was on the verge of being a track cut there coming out of Piratella and going into the first part of Acqua Minerale. But you can just see that Porsche is so much more agile than the Mercedes in the twisty stuff. And he's got a really good run coming up to Variante Alta. And if he was another car length closer to the car, I think he would have had that opportunity, but he runs wide coming out of the chicane.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult because you can get those good exits out of the corners, but the straights are so short. Those straight things, the bits in between the two corners, they're just never long enough to try and get that move done. And we saw the Porsche just get the slightly better exit. He started to make the move on towards the outside of the car to make the pass, but he just couldn't get it done. Just didn't have the legs to do it, and it certainly wasn't long enough to get into that braking zone where he could have maybe had a chance for fighting it. But he's doing well, he's hanging on, because this is the hardest part of the course for the Porsche to hang on. This, just the start finish straight there, the Porsche just does not have the top end legs, but he's doing a fantastic job of staying in the slipstream and just hanging on to the Mercedes. It'd be all too easy to fall out of that slipstream, and then he would really be in trouble trying to hang on. But yeah, I can't believe how many laps these guys have been going this close together now. They really are just nose to tail, lap after lap, and really applying the pressure to each other. But Batori's just soaking up that pressure. He's driving his lines like we've said so many times and so many commentaries. It's knowing when to defend and when not to, when to just drive your line, because obviously you start defending, it does slow you down. So the best way of defending is driving your line and keeping the lap times up there.
Yeah, very much the case there as we're heading into the last 10 3/4 minutes. Apologies. There are some issues with Discord at the moment. It is a server that gets used on a regular basis, so we're not without our problems here at SRHI as Notenboom again gets up a bit close and personal here on Bathory, but again, that was a bit neater through the exit of it. Aaron van Drooinen says he never used a 14-degree setup in 24 degrees weather. Yeah, and then you got to factor in the additional 7 degrees, Aaron, on the track temperature, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the temperature does make such a big difference, obviously, to tyre pressures and handling of things. It's very important to get those tyre pressures right, because obviously, when you've got 45 minutes to race, if you start the race with the wrong pressures in and whatnot, then you're stuck with it for the whole race. But we're just seeing Valtteri now. He has broken that slipstream back to Notenboom, and Notenboom instantly he's 1.2 seconds back now. So that could be battle over unless Valtteri makes a mistake. But it looks like he's managed to halt the attack of 5th place Notenboom.
Yep. So 9.5 minutes to go. We're on lap number 21 of this one-off event. It's the SimRacing.GP Community Spotlight here at Imola, courtesy of us here at Sim Racing Hub International. As Notenboom has a bit of a moment coming out of Tosa, and that puts him on the back foot. So it looks like Bathory's got the lights at the end of the tunnel that he well and truly needed in the 76 Mercedes. But the gap between Corkery and Nantes still around 4.5 seconds. Ben Keogh rounding out the top 3 at the moment. Then Bathory, Notenboom, Migliorini, Foldesi, Brendel, Evelins, Gillespie, Choose, Eikelenboom, Planas, Pazinato, Lang, Van Langen, Benz, Bakker, Van der Eyck, Knopfer, Schulman, and Van Drooinen rounding out the top 22 positions. But it's getting interesting here now for P10.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is the closest battle on the track at the moment with Choose and Gillespie, and we saw what happened to Choose earlier. He got levered out of the way somewhat unceremoniously, but he's battling again, and he's really applying that key word this evening: pressure on the back of Gillespie now. And Gillespie's again, these drivers in the SRHI league, they certainly know how to soak up pressure. We've seen very, very few mistakes from the guys that have been that found themselves under attack, and it absolutely makes for great racing here at SRHI. It's fantastic to watch, but one man that'll be getting a little bit frustrated with it is Mr. Choose in 11th place, and he's wanting that 10th place, and he's fighting very hard for it, and he's putting a lot of pressure on. He's diving down now into the braking zone, just forcing the Audi slightly wide, but all very respectful, very tidy, and Choose didn't do the lick the stamp and send it move that we saw slightly earlier from Faldesi. He managed to keep it a little bit more tidy, but he didn't get the move done, and he's just lost a little bit of time, but I'm sure he's going to make that up again as they just come across the line to complete another lap and head into what is the all-important braking zone now. Just to get this bit right is to carry a lot more speed through and maybe close that gap down. It's now half a second, the gap up to Gillespie, so it's just opened up a little bit, but looks like Choose is on the charge as that Porsche is protesting and squirreling around as he's on the power, and you can just see the body movement of the car there as he applied the brakes. It's really good to see the car control here as he's just looking down the inside. He's making sure Gillespie sees that he's there and that he knows he's still under pressure. It's all about driving skills, but it's all about mind games in GT3 racing tonight.
It very much is the case. 6 minutes and 43 seconds still to go here at Imola. So it's going to be rather interesting how these two get through Aquaminadali, the Porsche, trying to close up on the Audi. So you go on board with Ike Choose in the number 911 as we're right up the 9 on the back bumper of Gillespie in the 129 Audi. And look how close Choose gets coming out of the chicane there. He absolutely nailed both apexes there, but then the Audi got the legs on him coming out of the chicane out of Variante Alta. The Porsche, with the way it's been bought, and also the 2020 tyre mod, the Porsche is not as strong as it once was here.
No, and I think also because he made so much ground up that in the braking zone into the chicane there and got a really good exit. I think it caught Choose by surprise as well, and he had to lift ever so slightly, which exaggerated the exit that Gillespie got, and it just given Gillespie a little bit of breathing space again, as we can see now from the onboard. But I don't think this battle's over. I think, in fact, it's probably 5.5 minutes from over. You know, there's a bit of time left on the clock, and there's a little bit of clear track in between them at the moment. But Choose has certainly shown that he can close that gap down. He's a man on the charge, and I think he has got the pace on Gillespie at this stage in the race.
Yeah, Ali is about to complete lap number 23 very, very shortly. So, moment for Ike Choose there. Oh, he lost it. And that was going through, I think, Tosa, and that means that you've got a couple of other cars now starting to get past him. Planas, I think, is just about to fire past in the 42 BMW, and that is the case. So loses out to Eikelenboom and then Planas in one fell swoop because Choose just lost it coming out of Tosa. There's Coleman Corkery still leading the way, and that is heading through down to the left-hander at Tosa. And there's a back marker just up ahead. But, you definitely said that there were going to be dramas. Well, we didn't expect that drama for the 911 Porsche, did we, Steve?
No, he looked so good through most of the race there, as we'd been seeing. He was applying pressure, he was driving tidy lines, he was keeping things all squeaky clean, but then just one momentary lapse in either concentration or a little bit too much ambition with the right foot, and just caused him an incident there. Really bad to see, because it was a good race. It was shaping up. I think he would have got that gap back down again, and it would have given us something really to get excited about between those two guys. But talking of excitement, Newton Boom is again resumed battle with Battori again. He's got back closed up again. He's managed to start applying pressure, although he's looking a little bit loose there, a little bit ragged, and that's cost him a little bit of time. But he's still in the hunt for what is fourth place, and it's 3.5 minutes left to go, so he's going to have to start applying some pretty heavy pressure and start to eye up where he's going to make his move, if it's possible at all.
Yeah, well, we're now going on to effectively the penultimate lap of the race, the 25th lap of this race, as the leader, Coleman Corkery has now gone through. Tamburello, as we speak, as Battori and Norton Boom now still battling away hammer and tongs for P4 at the minute. Keogh still rounds out the top 3 behind Nance in the number 26. Migliorini, Foldesi, Brendel, Evelins, Gillespie, Eikelenboom, Planas, Hughes, Pazinato, and Lang round out the top 15 positions so far. But it is absolute. You can just hear the roar from that Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. But look at how close Notenboom gets through the chicane there. Oh my goodness, that Porsche had an absolute run of speed and just got caught out as Alexander Lang now receives a drive-through for track limits. That was heading into Villeneuve, wasn't it? Oh my goodness me. Notenboom had just wound up the wick on that Porsche and it just caught him out at the last moment.
I think he had enough speed, carried enough speed through that chicane there to get him to Monza almost. That was awesome. He really, really closed up on the back.
Maybe even Adria at a push, you know.
Yeah, it was all in control as well. You know, he managed to. He kept it within track limits. He was there. It was genuine speed. You know, that was phenomenal. So I'm not quite sure if Vettori was going a little bit slower and made Notenboom look even faster. But yeah, look at him trying there. As we're looking back at the Porsche, the number 979 Porsche of Notenboom, he really he's trying his hardest, as we saw the Porsche protest and get a little bit sideways. But again, in the braking zone, that Porsche is very, very strong on the brakes, certainly compared to this Mercedes, and certainly in the hands of Notenboom, he's really, really putting the pressure on, but he's just dropped a little bit way off now, and he's actually pitting. See him going to the pits. I wonder if he's had a missed fuel calculation, shall we say, and he's maybe just run it a little bit lean.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a new Nomex moment as well. Not just for him, but maybe for Vettori just up ahead with the number 76 staying in 4th position. That's going to hand 5th to Migliorini. But there is our leader with just under 60 seconds on the clock to go. Coleman Corkery secured pole position and has been running consistently at the front of the field. Notenboom now loses a position to Peter Foldesi. So the numbers 979 completes is still in the pits at the minute. Wonder how long it's going to be before Brendel and Evelyn's get past, and I think that's going to be happening round about now. But Corkery still has I think the way he's motoring on, I think he's still got time for another lap. He's just about to head through to Rivazza.
Yeah, absolutely. He's what can we say? There's not much to say about Mr. Corkery this evening. He stuck it on pole position. He got a fantastic start. You know, he had a gap halfway around the first lap. He put a bit of a gap on P2, and he's just driven exemplary. He takes the checkered flag there, and that is the race complete. And Corkery has led from lights out to checkered flag, and I think we'd be hard pushed to watch the whole replay and find any mistakes from that man. What a drive!
James Nance rounding out the top 2 in the number 26 Porsche, 4.1 seconds behind. Ben Keogh takes 3rd place ahead of Andras Vettori in the number 76, who crosses the line. And then it's Andrea Migliorini in the number 91, who will take 5th place in the 3rd of 5 Mercedes in the top 5. Then we'll have Foldesi, the lead BMW, who was in contention for the victory very early on as well. Brendel, Evelins, Gillespie, Notenboom ending up in P10 at the end of it all. Eikelenboom, Choose having that moment between Tosa and Pilatella, drops down to 13th head of Planas, Pazinato, Lang, Van Langen, Barker, Benz, Knupfer, Wanda Eyck, and Schollmann being the effectively being the last of the 21 finishers here on the SRHI TV broadcast here for the simracing.gp community spotlight race ahead of our next season of GT3. That was an interesting one, Steve. Coleman Corkery, absolutely untouchable.
Yeah, no more superlatives for that guy. I don't know what else to say. That was like I said, lights out, checkered flag, just not a foot wrong. But interestingly, we did have 3 different manufacturers on the podium, which is always good to see as well. We at the start of this race, we did see that there was an awful lot of Mercedes on the grid. Obviously, it was an all German grid. That was the car choices the drivers were given. They had to be a German car, but to see the Mercedes, Porsche, and an Audi in third place, it's good to see that competition is still alive, shall we say.
Very, very much the case. I don't know if we're going to be getting any interviews tonight, but obviously this really, Steve, just shows how tricky Imola is. And when we go to the first round of this season next Tuesday, which just so happens to be, I think it is the 2nd of February, this will be SRHI Sprint Season GT3 Season 3 Round 1 at the Nürburgring. Well, that's really, I think, wraps things up here on SRHI.tv. Steve, any final words for yourself?
No, as you've said during the stream, Alex, I think it's a case of if you're watching this stream, please, if you don't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and that way you're not going to miss any of the fantastic action. And the final words are just what a quality set of drivers we had on here tonight. We saw some battling right throughout the field. We saw drivers soaking up pressure. We saw drivers putting in some fantastic lap times, and we saw Mr. Corkery take it from lights out to checkered flag without pretty much, I don't think, a single mistake there. So some very, very high class driving tonight, and well done to all the competitors, and a well done and a thank you to SRHI admin for organising and sorting it all out. Absolutely great job, and a pleasure to work with you again, Alex. Thank you very much.
Indeed. That's it from us here at Sim Racing Hub International. We'll see you Tuesday next week, the 2nd of February, for the starting point of Sprint Season 3 GT3 Round 1, which heads to the Eifel region, the fantastic Nürburgring circuit. We'll see you then. Good night for now.
Good night.